All right. Okay. We're live. I'm going to be reacting to a few vegan videos. I'm going to do a test right now just to see how the audio is sounding. Let's do
Yo, don't
this.
ask me what the point of this video is. I have absolutely no idea, but it is very entertaining, and the plot twist at the end is crazy.
Yeah, Christina.
Christina, Kentucky, 26, health coach, no kids, cancer. What kind of man you looking for, boo?
I'm looking for a king.
Okay. Let's see. I just want to play that back and hear myself followed by that reaction. Okay. Or by the hear myself and then the other video. Okay. Okay. Yep, that sounds good. Okay. Scan this back. All right, so first video we're going to be going over is by Vegan Phobic. I have not seen this other than this intro a couple times to test the sound. The video is called Delusional Vegan Dating Standards. Here we go.
Yo, don't ask me what the point of this video is. I have absolutely no idea, but it is very entertaining, and the plot twist at the end is crazy.
Yeah, Christina.
Christina, Kentucky, 26, health coach, no kids, cancer. What kind of man you looking for, boo?
I'm looking for a king who is established. He already has his kingdom established and he's just waiting on his queen.
Okay, what's some deal breakers?
Oh,
I don't. I'm here to react to vegan stuff, but I don't know if I should point out when I like or dislike something. We all have our things. Things like bother us for no reason. It's not a big deal. I just want to point out, gosh, I don't know why. I hate the king and queen. I don't know. I guess I don't need to point out my dislike of like new terms for things or whatever. I'm not a huge fan of this like flamboyant style of talking either, where it's like queen, what you doing, what like, I don't know, it's just not my style. All kinds of people say it. Hopefully that didn't come across as some thing about black people or anything. That's it. It's just I like when people seem authentic, and when somebody's like trying to sound cool, just not a huge fan. You know what? Since I'm not too far into this video and somebody's asking if they can join the stream, let me let them join the stream. All right. I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce that name. The Quain, or is it Thequain? I don't know. I guess if you hop in here, you're probably about to tell me. All right. I know who this is, I think. How's it going?
Can you hear me?
I can.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay.
Awesome. What's up?
No, I just want to say you actually have one of the greatest vegan channels currently on YouTube because you actually
Oh,
get
thank you.
vegans to think. Yeah, because you get vegans to think about like stuff that people like meat eaters like me would think about. So you're trying to like preemptively warn them about arguments that we will have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well,
So
and to me, it's not about the warning. A lot of people do that. Like I'll see someone like Ben Shapiro like prepare people to debate abortion or something like that, and they're warning somebody of this is what you're going to come against, so this is how you go back at them. And to me, I'm always about finding the truth. So I'm not even telling people like, hey, do this because this will make us look better. It's make sure to discuss this topic because that will make us all more knowledgeable.
Yeah, because the thing is, a lot of vegans don't understand that the best thing that they should not do is talk about like either the environment or health, because the facts is like kind of like iffy on it. But
Mhm.
like of my research is not looking good for vegans. But they
Gotcha.
keep the so they keep trying to spread misinformation and they keep getting debunked. And even though like I try and like tell them facts, even though I'll say like I'm not anti-vegan, but I will like I've been learning to cook vegan food in case I have a vegan friend.
Hmm.
I'm willing to like meet vegans halfway, but they have to understand like I'm a speciesist, and they don't want to fathom that humans want to be speciesist. Also,
Yeah,
they can't fathom
yeah.
that humans are speciesist, and they just can't fathom that humans don't want to eat meat.
Yeah, yeah, and it all comes I think it all comes down to what we're capable of, like what our resources are. Like I'm guessing even though you're a speciesist in a sense, the same sense that I am, that if you were in a burning building with or if there's a human and a dog in a burning building, you're going to save the person and I'm going to save the person as well. But if you had all the resources in the world, all the food, everything you could possibly want, and there was an animal just 5 feet away from you and you could make it suffer so you can get some pleasure from it, I'm guessing you're not going to make it suffer just for fun for the pleasure. You're going to make it you're okay with animals suffering for your own health benefits and because you can look at studies and see that it's not affecting the environment. But if everything was covered, every human was having the greatest life ever, and we had all the food in the world, would would you think that would you value an animal um, less than a rock?
Well, yeah, because an animal is a rock is a inanimate object, but
Hmm.
an animal is a living being, just like a plant. So yeah, I value things that's living rather than something that is not living way more. You know?
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. Same here. Because yeah, that's really all it comes down to. If I'm out in the forest and I'm stranded somewhere with my family, I'm going to kill every animal there is to feed my family. But it all comes down to what I'm convinced of or not convinced of. If I was convinced that I need animal products to be healthy, I would eat as few animal products as possible to be healthy. And while I'm convinced to not that you don't need animal products to be healthy, I'm going to not eat animal products. So
Okay, so
yeah,
my biggest argument right now, because I know you're gonna play the video
hmm,
by I forgot his name.
vegan phobic.
Yeah, He's a really nice gentleman, but you was talking about like you don't want to offend black people. I have like
Hmm.
2 points I want to bring up. One is like how because I'm black, you know that's right. Because
Hmm.
yeah,
Well, I didn't know that,
so
but okay.
yeah, so I find it highly disrespectful for other people to compare black people or Jewish people to animals, like livestock.
Mm.
Because I think it's unfair to even remotely consider like let's say like slaves or like well I'm black, I cannot speak for Jewish people, but
Yeah.
if because like yeah there was no such thing as a slave who was vegan. Slaves before, during, and after slavery in the Atlantic slave trade, they ate meat. So like comparing us to food is just like a bad precedent and a bad thinking ideology that actually what slave owner says like, oh yeah, they're comparable to food. Whatever, just throw that human into the pond with crocodiles. Who cares? It's
Yeah.
not yet human.
Yeah,
This is what
I
pisses me off.
personally, well, there's a couple things. If I have conversations with people, I want them to listen to me and hear what I'm saying, and I want to listen to them and hear what they're saying. So I think there's a time and a place to provoke people, but it's not when you want to have an honest conversation. If I refer to animals being killed to eat en masse to as a holocaust, then that's going to make people think it's being compared to the Jewish Holocaust, and then it's just going to do this whole thing. And when I talk to Vegan Gaines, he brings up black people and slavery and slaveless Tuesdays and all this stuff. And I think it's best to have conversations where you're not upsetting people. And so if there's no point in saying a thing, I don't like to say it. And so that's why I don't like to compare killing animals to Jewish people or black people or whatever. The only comparable element I would say is the same thing that makes me not want to harm humans is what makes me not want to harm cows or dogs. It's their ability to suffer. But I don't think it's equal. I would rather save any human than any other animal. But I do want to clarify, just in case it sounded off, what I was saying about black people in the vegan phobic thing. I actually wasn't referring to him. I forgot that he himself is black. I haven't seen many of his videos. But in the video I started, it was two ladies talking, and they kind of had this attitude, this like flamboyant attitude of queen, king thing. And I was just commenting on that, that's not an attitude I happen to like. And then I was realizing that it might have sounded like I was saying that how some black Americans sound, that I was commenting on that. I don't know if what country do you live in?
I'm from the Caribbean, but I live in America.
Oh, you're in America now. Okay. Do you know how, especially in the South, black people in the U.S. will say axe instead of ask? And I think it came from an origins of some kind of British history. Is that a thing that happens in the Caribbean as well?
Yeah, because I believe it's just I think it's like an ideology from from Africa is instead of like pronouncing it like fully, you kind of that's why I have like broken English. You're just trying to like make it sound like the word, but you remove as much syllables as possible because the more you speak, the more you decrease in your lifespan. So
Oh,
basically,
interesting.
like
Okay.
it said, like ask is like ask.
I see. Okay.
So
I just
you just
wanted to,
roll the tongue. So yeah.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure I was pointing out that I wasn't criticizing a sound of talking because of a race. I mean, the idea of somebody judging somebody by the color of their skin is so idiotic to me. Like if somebody does it, whatever, like they can do whatever they want. But like, I would just never want to come across as a person that would care about somebody's skin color in a negative way. And
No,
so
no,
that's
you're a sweetheart.
okay.
You always trying to like make sure that everything is fair. I'm not coming at you anyway because you obviously
For
have
sure.
been fair about it though. So I know I said it multiple times. I don't think it's really a good idea to compare like human beings to the struggle of whatever animals do because at the end of the day we're omnivores and
Mhm.
also too like animals most animals on earth because humans are not animals but let's say humans are animals whatever
Mhm.
most animals on earth eat meat. So like the whole vegan world is just is a complete like you definitely smoking the devil's lettuce, not you, but I'm saying with
Mhm.
this whole vegan world ideology, it's not going to happen because there's no such thing as animal rights when it can't even comprehend what veganism is.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. There's a handful of people I talk to that take pretty extreme stances on being anti-vegan. Would you say that it's good to have a law protecting like a dog from being beat by its owner?
I would say, yeah, like just for no reason, but I'm okay with people eating dogs.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. But yeah, so like let's say that there's a man that takes dogs into his basement and ties them up and just like kind of stabs them a little bit, but he knows he's stabbing them enough that he can see the blood coming out and the dog whimpers, but he knows the dog's going to live. And then he unties the dog and then nurses it back to health and then makes it suffer again. Would you say that if somebody caught this on camera, that he was making this animal suffer just for his own benefit of enjoying watching this happen? But outside of that, everything else this man does, he's a great guy, a great father, a great person in the society, but he tortures dogs for fun. Would you say that he should be told, like, this is illegal? If you keep doing it, you're going to go to jail?
Because if it's not his pet and he's not using the animal for food, then yeah, that's creepy. No.
I agree, and so that's why I think that people think of veganism as an absolute. They think of it as humans don't harm animals at all. Otherwise, and you have that, or you have the opposite of that. And in my mind, it really is just this idea of recognizing that if something can suffer, then different people to different levels can work towards making things not suffer. So somebody can say, I think it's healthy to eat chicken and cow, but it's not, it doesn't add any health benefit to torture a dog. So we're going to make it illegal. And so the same thing could go for a cow, an animal that you could kill and eat for health. You probably wouldn't want it to be legal to take it into a basement, slowly torture it, but keep it alive, right?
No, I wouldn't.
Gotcha. So that's kind of my stance on it is we all have our different levels of what we care about and don't care about. And at some point, I think even non-vegans, if they had the time to be shown the details of what happens in factory farms, they'd probably vote to outlaw certain things, but not other things. And it would all be slowly working towards a more vegan world in a sense. And the same thing can go with the opposite. So I don't eat animals. I haven't eaten animals for 8 years. If I were to buy,
I follow your channel. So yeah, I just recently watched the video you had with Grumpy Vegan Dad, and and also to Vegan of course. They didn't understand what you were trying to say, that you have to make baby steps towards getting people to go to a vegan world, because I call myself a vegan ally, because I'll cook vegan food, or just like, look, eat what you want, but I'm not gonna heckle you. But you always talk about what the food I eat. I'll cook vegan food. But the thing is, you have to understand, in order to get people to actually care about factory farming, in order to get vegan people to like think about going vegan, you have to get people to actually care about the conditions of factory farming. You can't just say like, just everyone go vegan. You have to say like, oh, look at these conditions. Like, well, don't you want them to have like better conditions? Then slowly people are like, okay, yeah. So we could make laws together with people who eat meat to get these conditions better. And then instantly you're going to have less people eat the meat, or it'd be like maybe like slightly more or less affordable. Then when we have global healthcare welfare for animals, then it's like, but I really have to eat animals? And then vegans will have a better leverage when people actually have more empathy towards the livestock and the factory farming situation with the livestock. But they don't understand that. This is why I say that you were better for veganism, and I consider them as just like, they want to compare themselves to like Martin Luther King, or just like, be quiet. Like, how? Like,
no, for sure. And also it just really comes down to what your values are. I did a poll on my channel asking people if they were obligate carnivores, where if they had to eat only meat to survive and thrive, would they do it, or would they let themselves die because they don't want to harm animals? And I would say about half of the vegans that responded said they would eat as little amount of animals as they need to be healthy, and no more than that. And so I think everybody's different, and it really just some people, like Vegan Gain, says that he would let himself die, and I think that's wild. I think that's a silly idea, but it's whatever, more power to him. But if you're wanting to look at your health and then outside of that cause little suffering, then I wouldn't want people to stop eating animals if they were convinced they needed animals to be healthy. If it's true that we need eat animals to be healthy, then I want everyone to eat animals. I'd want to eat them myself. And so far I've done all right. And the little bit I know of studies shows that it's okay, that it's healthy to not eat animals. But it's too recent. Veganism is too recent to say for sure. It would be silly to outlaw it and to make it to where people can't eat it. I just want people to work towards not making animals suffer for their own pleasure. So the guy torturing the dogs or the cows in his basement, to me, it's not too far from somebody eating like an unhealthy ice cream made from dairy milk, where if you know all this processed sugar and garbage is in this ice cream, and you're eating it because your dopamine levels are going off and you love it, and a cow had to be milked for it, made pregnant, they have to take the baby away from the mom to give you this food that's just going to make you fat. Like in America, 80% of people are overweight. And if you're eating ice cream just for taste pleasure, it seems less disturbing, but in my mind, it's not much different than a guy with a dog in his basement that he's torturing for fun. And so I want people to work towards eat your dairy, eat your eggs, eat your meat, but buy the healthy versions, buy what you're convinced is actually healthy, not just that you think animals are here for us to eat, so let's ignore their suffering.
Okay, well, I agree with you. But however, though, I do have a debate talking point, and I feel like you're probably the best person to talk about it because vegans like to say, like in a survival situation, you could eat meat. It's like when it comes to like the facts, no vegans give me any like credit over this because they know it's the truth and they don't want to bring this up. But the oldest people to live on Earth to like the oldest age, like it seems like 114 years is where most people like either like live and live a little bit longer or like they kind of like dwindle away and die to 100, 114 to 126. There's
Oh,
been
wow.
no vegan that has been close to that. So based on the definition of survival is being able to live as long as possible. So technically being able to live till the oldest age is survival. And there's been no vegans, there's only been a few vegetarians to be able to be the oldest age. So technically, based on veganism's point of view, I am in a survival situation because I need to live as long as. And since there's no evidence of vegans living like past like 100, like not even 105, I don't think that vegans live that long. There's no
Yeah.
evidence. So basically, in a survival situation, what it means survival means living as long as I have all right to eat meat because I want to survive, and survival is about living as long as you possibly can, right?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So,
Hmm.
okay, so I'm a pretty open and honest person. I probably have my biases the way most people do, but I'm willing to look at anything. And as soon as my mind is changed, I just change it that quick. If you were to show me something that made me feel convinced that I would live to 120 off eating some animal products, where if I didn't and I was the healthiest vegan possible and I was convinced that I'd only live to be 90 as a vegan but 120 as a non-vegan, then I probably would switch over. But it's complicated. Studies are complicated. I don't know if you've heard of the blue zones, but
Yes, yes, the blue zones. Yeah, there's usually like around like some places in the Mediterranean, so
yeah.
Mediterranean, and also to Loma Linda, and then also to one is in like Japan.
Yeah, and then strangely enough, one of them's an area in California where it's just a kind of a community of what is it, Seventh Day Adventists,
And yeah,
and
I know this all about this. Like only 8% of the people over there are like vegans. Most of them just like stay away from processed food, which is the biggest problem in anyone's diet. This is
100%.
what. hmm So yeah, only 8% are vegans, and they're actually people who are pescatarians or people who eat meat but just practice a healthy lifestyle. Stay away from cigarettes, stay away from the booze. You can't go to the bar and get drunk like every weekend and expect to be good and just like chugging on like French fries. They eat healthy whole foods, and basically the meat eaters outlive them. Pescatarians second, vegetarians, and then vegans are last. But only 8% of them are vegans, and it's on the website. You can look it up.
Okay, yeah, I'll look into it. I know the blue zones aren't necessarily thought to be vegan, but they're from my understanding, they're thought to be not only are you right that it's not processed, but that it's almost all like 97% of their diet or 90% or whatever is whole plant foods, and then some of them eat fish and different things like that. And
Whole
but
food,
yeah,
whole
there's a
foods in
lot.
general.
Yeah,
Whole
and so
food.
there's a lot to study. Like, are you familiar with Jordan Peterson and Michaela Peterson?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. So I made a video a while back about them because they're both on the carnivore diet and they both had a lot of health issues. And going on the carnivore diet healed those health issues. And here's where I think we can have something we can easily agree on, and then there's ideas that are up in the air, and that is that no matter what, their health issues were fixed because they eliminated all the bad. But the question is, what is the bad? If they did their same diet where they eliminated all the bad, but if they would have kept, say, 10 fruits and 10 veggies in there, but it was like whole foods and they just ate these whole foods and their meat, would they have been healed the same way because they got rid of the processed stuff? And what if it was 10 fruits and 10 veggies, but no meats, but they cut out all the processed stuff? So I don't know the answer. If 20 years from now, I find out that I'm convinced that that meat is the healthiest route, I won't even be surprised, because again, that's how early this all is. But what I will say is, meat or no meat, the processed garbage is killing us all. And I really wish my fellow vegans would try to cut out all the processed garbage, so that way we can at least see how healthy we can be. Because if somebody's a couple 100 pounds overweight and fighting for veganism, somebody's going to go like, oh, well, I want to at least be healthy if I'm going to be moral, and they won't want to. So
Yeah, I fully agree with you because there's no evidence that vegans like live long on their diet, and then also too, there's like virtually zero evidence that people who just eat like only meat live long. So basically, they're in the same boat. There's like they're just like nothing more than lab rats. So they're just trying to see who's the healthiest. But the thing is, omnivore diet, you just have to make sure that you hit all your weekly required nutrients, and just stay away from the processed food, because that's the biggest factor. The reason why people are so obese and unhealthy in America is not because of the meat. Is because like say like if you want to eat like say like a burger, like if you want to go to like say McDonald's, right? It's not the meat, because the meat is 100% all beef patty, but the bread is processed.
Yeah.
The lettuce is GMO. Who knows what it's sprayed with? The tomato is GMO. Then you also too get the sauce in there that's heavily GMO with a bunch of like, and then the French fries. The French fries, instead of having it in tallow, now they're dunking it in like toxic vegetable oils.
Yeah.
And God, who knows when last time they actually changed the oil, if they ever did. You know. Then you got the soda. You could just chug away with the free soda fountain, and it's like, yeah. And then really, do you really want to blame it on the 100% beef patty, or do you want to blame it on everything else?
I would say for sure a fast food restaurant that has 100% beef patties, that's going to be one of the healthiest things in the restaurant, because drinking your calories and sugar is no good. And I want to point out, normally when I do podcasts, it's morning my time, and I have my cup of cold brew coffee, and I've been sipping on this guy. This is it's called Zevia. It's a soda where it's just stevia extract, like the stevia sweetener, and then carbonated water. And it's, anyways, I don't even know. I just didn't want people to think I was talking about health food and chugging away at like a beer or a soda. It's it's on the healthy side, but yeah, I completely agree. I think one of the biggest issues probably is sweets, like having cookies, ice cream, candy. Like candy bars are on every single checkout stand at a grocery store, and you can buy these big boxes of candy for 50 cents. And it's just horrible. It's I don't know what the right answer is of how to fix it, other than trying to get all the humans in the world to become healthy together.
Carson, can you even call it chocolate though? Because chocolate, you have to be over like at least 70% cacao or cacao. They call it. That do you really call that chocolate?
Right? No, fair point. Yeah, I really wish, and I think the only way to do it is to have everybody in your household or your friends, like whoever you are around, have it be people that want to be healthy and encourage each other to do well. Because it's sad. Honestly, I care about animals and I care about veganism. It's a very important topic to me, but I would rather my fellow humans keep eating animals and get healthy than I would want them to turn vegan. I want them to turn vegan eventually, or at least work towards it. I want them to stop harming animals for pointless foods like ice cream and deep fried like chicken nuggets and stuff like that. But if people are going to truly be healthy, and especially people that get their meat from hunting, a deer lives its entire life not being caged in, and then in seconds it's taken out. Like that's a small worry for me in a world full of many countries that have female circumcision and wars going on in Israel and Ukraine. Like there's a lot of problems in the world. And I don't think a big issue is going to be people going hunting. But the factory farming is pretty bad. And that's why I want my message in veganism to be a focus on the welfare and to care about the suffering of these animals.
I agree with you. Hopefully I can get back on one of your community maybe you could unblock me from your channel. You don't have to, but I'm saying because I have points that vegans need to think about. Because if the
Mhm.
world goes vegan, I really don't care. If it doesn't, I don't care. But
Wait,
however, though, I'm more.
do you think you were blocked from my channel?
Apparently, I can't comment on your lives anymore.
Oh, interesting. So okay, even under the name that you commented on here, that's a different name than you normally have. Is that
Yeah, this is my
because the?
this is my troll account, but my name that you see on the screen, that's my original name on my
Oh,
YouTube.
okay.
Yeah, this is my troll
Y-
account.
yeah, I recognize your name. And a lot of people will refer to you as a troll in the comments, and I actually I don't view you as a troll, but I guess you have an account that's a troll account for trolling people, which is
Yeah, this
fine.
is my actual troll account, which I hardly use.
That's funny. Yeah, let me see. I wonder how to find ban from studio, kick out. I'll have to look through to see.
Yeah,
There
you
might
probably
have.
shouldn't do it on live stream because you might accidentally expose some information.
Right.
So
I
yeah,
think maybe what happened was, so every once in a while, if I'm doing a live stream or something and there's a good conversation happening in the chat, and then somebody goes in there and it seems like they're spam posting, sometimes I'll block them from chatting. But I figured that that would just block them from chatting at that chat. I didn't realize it would make them never be able to come back, because I actually do enjoy seeing you show up in chat, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. I'm really glad you came on.
yeah, because because I want to bring some points that vegans need to be worried about because I want to like bring out the information to people, but I
Hmm.
feel like I need to tell a vegan so they could actually like critique it and actually like so it doesn't become like a one slide in hell because the whole point of like survival, the oldest people, which actually is a fact when you look at it, like Hong Kong has the longest life expectancy, and they also to eat the most meat on earth compared to some place like
Mm.
super vegan friendly, like India, where they say like, "Oh, India should be the lands of the ahimsa," but they have like a life expectancy of 40, which is actually pretty horrible.
Mm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
stuff
well,
like
I'm
that.
I'm obsessed with health. I'm not an expert in any way, but if you have any recommendations for books to check out or YouTube videos or anything to check out, send them my way and I'll check them out, and I'll try to figure out how to get you unblocked from this.
Okay.
But yeah. Anyways, it's
So
great.
so what I'm saying
Yeah.
though, I know you want to do your show, so I don't want to hold you up too much.
Yeah, you're fine.
But the last thing I want to say though is vegans need to understand that me, I'm a speciesist. So like if I had to choose between like one human baby or like a billion pigs, or sorry, one human infant, or yeah,
Hmm.
infant, or like a billion piglets, I'm choosing the infant, and I'm okay
Mm.
with like killing the piglets because I'm a speciesist like that.
Yeah.
But if a vegan said that they would choose to save a human over like infant over two piglets, that means they're speciesist because they should only mean that two lives is greater than one. So they should
Mm.
automatically choose the two piglets over one human being. But vegans won't either. They don't want to say it or they don't want to admit it because they don't want to sound like misanthropes. So
Yeah,
they don't want to sound misanthropic. So
I'm not a huge fan of the word speciesist or speciesism. It's just it complicates things, and I think it's so much easier just to declare what you care about. So you care about humans, but you also care about animals. You're going to eat them because you care more about yourself than you care about them themselves, and I do too. But the idea of like a label existing to for somebody to declare if they care more about a piglet or a human, I think it just is a destructive label. It's just I don't usually like many of the isms. I don't like many of the phobias when people say like Islamophobic or racism, all these different
okay,
things.
but I agree with you though. But vegans have a technicality over me because, like, if I say like, "Oh, you have a pet cow," it's like, "Cool, that's cool." It's like, "Oh, I have a cow as livestock." It's like, "Oh, okay, so when can we eat it?" But you have a pet cow, and I'm like, "Okay, so it's your pet." It's like if you have like a pet dog, a pet cat, I'll treat it like your pet, or a pet pig. I'm just
Hmm.
like, "Oh, this pig is really cool." But I say like if you have your dog, cat, or pig, whatever animal is your livestock, then I'm like, "Okay, it's livestock, but when can we eat it?" So the
Mm.
technicality is like if vegans could actually manage to make all animals like considered pets, which will be difficult but possible, then I mean, I'm not gonna eat anyone's pet.
Yeah.
That's the only technicality they have over me. You
Yeah,
know what I
yeah, it's pretty
mean?
complicated. Well, so for me, I'm torn too because I care a lot about freedom and people. Like I don't need people to be given pleasure. I just want them to not be made to suffer and have the freedom to figure out what they want to do themselves. So like I mostly lean like libertarian, and when it comes to animals, I feel like in a world where, let's say hypothetically, we don't need animals to be healthy. Let's imagine that you were convinced the healthiest way is to not eat animals. I would think that we shouldn't have pets or livestock or anything like that, and animals should just be left out into the wild. Now, if we need animals to survive, that's a whole different story. Obviously, it's just like lions would have to eat like a zebra or gazelle to survive, and to be healthy. So if we need to eat animals to be healthy, that's a whole different story. But I just, this idea of pets, I don't know if you have pets or if you like the idea of pets, but I just feel like anything living that can feel and make choices on their own should have this freedom to do what they want to do.
But you see, that's kind of like I understand what you're saying, but there's some animals who just like enjoy like being alive. So there's like I think it's called like a capybara. They're like one of the most friendliest animals. I think it's like you see in South America. They'll
Yeah,
like
South
literally
America.
run up to a human. Like some deers are just like don't know like anything about humans. They're like oh, and just like walk up to humans. So
Hmm.
it's like we could leave animals alone, but some animals, like especially like birds, they just like want to just like be around us.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Like
well,
ducks too.
when
The
I
ducks
talk
are just like yeah. So
I was
sorry.
just gonna say,
Go
like
ahead.
when I talk about not being okay with pets, the best thing I've come up with for dogs would be like if I lived out in the wild and some like kind of tame non-wild wolf came up to me and I had like a cabin and it just wanted to be with me, like I wasn't forcing it to. If I just left the door off and the dog could just come in and hop on the bed and sleep in the same bed that I sleep in, but whenever it wanted, it just got up and ran outside and it's in the wild. Like I'm not against humans being around animals. I just don't like the idea of forcing it in somewhere, and it's kind of complicated because we've domesticated them over the years and whatnot. But just this
No,
idea
no,
that like,
I understand that though, but I think the complication will be the communication. Though, so that's why people talk about
yeah,
name the trait. The trait is communication because it's just like, look, I love you. You love to come over here, wild wolf. But the thing is, you bring a lot of ticks, and also too is like you come over here and like you're cool, but I don't know, I don't care to be around your other wolf friends because I could only feed one wolf. The wolf doesn't understand that. So they're like you're surrounded by wolves and then the other wolves might get jealous because you treating this wolf nice but not the other wolves nice. So then now
hmm
you barricade in your house because these wolves are pissed off at you. So now you have to grab a gun and now so there's gonna be a war between you and the wolves. So you see,
gotcha.
that's why they don't understand the communication because the wolf doesn't understand. Like, don't bring your friends, and also too, when you come home, just like go like take a bath in the in the river and wash off those ticks because I don't want ticks in here also too.
Yeah.
So the yeah, so that's like that's why name the trait doesn't work, and also too is like we have communication because I say like, look, if you want to come over, I'm gonna make some food, and then we just like if you don't get the hint, I'm just like okay. In the Caribbean, we say like when you turn the broomstick upside down, that means we want you to leave. Or just like, I have to go to sleep, so I mean, I'm not telling you to go home, but you can't stay here. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Wolves cannot understand it. Other animals cannot understand our consent. They couldn't even fathom the ideology of what we're thinking of veganism, like much less like fish in the ocean. So this is why the
Yeah.
whole veganism could only work for human beings who can understand this. So this is what I'm trying to tell
Yeah.
vegans. They need to deep think what they're saying and like be be with meat eaters because we actually care about livestock because I care about livestock because I love them, but they need to
Hmm.
figure out a way how to get people ease people in rather than calling them animal abusers, this buzzword, this other buzzword, and like,
Yeah. Well, yeah, just to be decent and work towards a better future.
yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, no, it was a great talk. Oh, real quick. So you said you're from the Caribbean, but is it Caribbean or Caribbean? I always forget.
Well, I said Caribbean.
Caribbean. Okay. So yeah, yeah, because it's the movie Pirates of the Caribbean, but I think people from there say Caribbean. But yeah, my wife's going there on doing a vacation there in about a couple days. She's been there before, loves it. Do you go back and visit often?
No.
Okay. How long have you been
I've
living
been
here?
since like 2007.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Do you
I think the reason they
prefer?
call it Caribbean
Mhm.
instead of Carib because of the original the inhabitants before they got chased out, they were called the Caribs.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Gotcha. Do you
Yeah.
prefer living here to there?
Nah, I'm trying to move to another country.
Oh, where are you going?
I don't know. I want to see how Africa is. It might be a little difficult for me to see what Ireland. Maybe they might not accept me, or just like
Hmm.
maybe some Asian country, someplace next to the ocean.
Oh, cool. Awesome. Sounds good. Well, anyways, thanks for calling in and chatting here. And yeah, I'll see you in the comments, and I'll try to get you unbanned from here if I can figure out how to do that. I'll have to have
All
some
right.
young tech savvy youngster show me how to do it. All right.
All right.
Take care, my friend.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yep. Hey, Jeremy. Let's see. Okay, I actually got to pee real quick. Jeremy, if you want to chat in a sec, I'd love to run something past you. Yeah, I got to pee, but I'll be right back. Jeremy, the link is in the comments here. If you want to chat, I'll be right back.
Yo,
Hey, how's it going?
all right,
All right.
pretty decent day.
Nice, nice. Oh, I was going to ask you something. Okay. There's there's a few topics. So the first thing I'm curious about, let's say you had a friend that was not vegan in any way, and they weren't going to become vegan, but they told you that if you told them something kind of smallish that they could do to benefit the lives of animals, they would do that one thing. Like maybe cut out one specific animal, like they wouldn't eat cow anymore, but they'd eat all the rest of the things. Or they wouldn't, just something where you could think of like something on a smaller scale. What would you say from your personal knowledge? You might, not know
Yeah,
enough. What would it be?
that's a pretty good question, and it goes to the principle of consequentialism. The key thing here is that it's not about um, how many more rules that person would be following, uh, how many more duties they'd feel like they were undertaking, or something like that. It wouldn't be agent centric. It would be patient centric, based upon the level of consequences. So, when we think about people uh, who are vegetarians, dairy and egg vegetarians, or pescatarians, or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
the key consequentialist question is, are they causing less harm on net? And in some cases, that might be the case. If somebody is going to go from being a full-on carnist, causing harm to all the animals that people do on a typical American diet, to sort of only consuming the exact same amount of dairy products that they otherwise would have, cut out all the meat, but don't increase the dairy or eggs at all, then obviously you're doing much better for the moral patients, for the animals in this case. You're improving. But there seems to be a pretty good case to be made that a lot of vegetarians, especially sort of permanent long-term vegetarians, eat much more dairy than they would have if they were also eating meat, and sometimes many more eggs, and so if you come up with a rule that says I'm not going to eat red meat or whatever, but then it causes you to eat a lot more eggs, then you're almost certainly causing more overall harm to animals than you originally were. So the fact that you took on another rule for yourself to follow, doesn't mean shit.
Is there one that you could think of that
ethics.
could? Like, do you think there's a likelihood that if somebody said they're never going to consume dairy ever again, do you think even if they increase their egg and meat consumption, that they likely will have a better overall outcome toward animals?
Well, no,
than if
probably
they
not,
didn't?
because there are very different degrees to which different animal products cause harm per calorie, and eggs are quite possibly the worst. Even in terms of meat, one of the key points that comes up with utilitarians or consequentialists is sometimes it's called an ethical footprint, or a suffering footprint, or something like that, analogous to the carbon footprint, where none of us have a zero carbon footprint, but we have footprints of different sizes, and the people that talk about this sort of thing, which fine, it makes sense to me. One of the worst examples of somebody adopting a new rule and feel like they're doing good, but actually greatly increasing their suffering footprint, is when they give up red meat and stop eating beef and start replacing it with chicken, because obviously, to start with, an individual single cow provides many more calories than a single chicken. So people switching from beef to chicken are causing themselves to cause massively more harm, to require many, many more deaths for the same number of calories. And so it's morally worse change, and to give up red meat, if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to replace it with smaller animals. And then in addition to that, the moment-to-moment experience of factory farm chickens are almost certainly much more terrible than the overall experience of cows, for various obvious reasons. You spend your whole life in a shed, crammed together with other animals, versus a lot of your life out grazing in a field. That's a lot worse consequence.
Okay,
So
Yeah.
the way that you judge the changes that people make is not based upon how many more rules that person has adopted, and how many more rigorous standards they're following. It's based upon whether those standards are actually moving their impact on all of the sentient beings who they affect in a positive direction, or neutral or negative direction.
Yeah, I agree, but here's a problem. People especially people that aren't already doing a certain thing, like somebody that's not already vegan. People like things to be simple. They like to hear this idea of oh, this bad thing, I can stay away from it. SeaWorld, oh, this is sad what happens. I'll just go to Disneyland instead. And so this idea of if somebody can be told like, oh, do this simple thing, like stop wearing furs around your neck that has the fox head and the feet, like we all, even the people that eat meat, view that as disgusting. And so now that's like, it's out. So I guess it's just like, I agree with you. Obviously somebody could, a vegan that, as far as the diet goes, could cause more harm and suffering to animals if they tried really hard than a not vegan that barely eats any animal. So there are, but just as far as discussing, having conversations with non-vegans that might like want to hear simple ideas, would you say that on average, if somebody were to cut chicken out of their diet completely, but they kept eating dairy, eggs, beef, lamb, whatever, that they are likely to cause less suffering if they choose chicken to cut out?
That seems like it's probably the case. I mean, chicken meat is very close to the worst animal product in terms of its suffering footprint, along with eggs and probably farmed fish who spend their entire lives in these crowded, polluted, horribly disgusting pools getting
Are most fish
various
that
illnesses.
people eat farmed?
I think it highly depends upon your location, but I'm pretty sure overall, no, not at all. Most fish are wild caught through trawl nets and things like this.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. No, you said egg
This
though.
is
What?
not to say that the experience of being caught and dying, which is often slow, horrific suffocation of wild caught fish, is not severe, but in terms of its duration, you know, they spent their lives up to that point, living naturally in the wild, which may itself be horrible. You know, I take wild animal suffering seriously, so.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the average life of an ocean fish is probably not super great.
Do you think their brains are capable of being stressed
A
out?
lot of fearful moments, a lot of near predation experiences. But farmed fish, from what I've seen, live in horrendous life to death experiences with no relief, somewhat similar to layer hens or broiler chickens. So it's just, you know, to know the exact answers about which conditions are worse than others, and how much, you know, requires a lot of facts. I can make some kind of rough judgments, but I don't have all of the precise facts for every kind of situation, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I
what
just
would
think it
say
could
is
be worth
the morally justified principle behind it is, you know, whatever those facts turn out to be, the way that a sort of partial approach to veganism that's not entire veganism would be measured is in terms of whether it reduces the net negative effect on the experiences of animals, not whether it just is an additional rule for that person to be following. There's all sorts of rules, like the obvious example of a rule against eating red meat that a human could adopt, which could very easily result in their suffering footprint becoming larger if they switch to chicken or fish for the same amount of calories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's just worth figuring out and knowing.
Almost entirely, but not entirely vegan, to going vegan could cause somebody's suffering footprint to increase. You know, if they're changing to the particular plant foods that have the largest impact on the death and suffering of animals. That's not usually going to be the case. If you go from a standard American diet to a vegan diet, I'm quite confident that you're greatly reducing your suffering footprint. But except for the case of bivalves, you know, that's just really strong moral defense for eating, you know, rope farmed oysters that don't involve any bycatches. You know, not only is it pretty reasonably argue that it's okay, but if calories are coming from these non-sentient oysters that don't impact any other animals, instead of from certain fruits and vegetables that have a very high impact in terms of rodenticides, you know, animals being shot to protect the crops and other indirect effects on animals, then eating more oysters rather than more vegetables could very easily be a reduction in suffering footprint, a more moral behavior.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of the problem is that most
and
people
you can't just sit in your armchair and figure out the answers to all of these trade-offs, right? Because you need to know the real facts, not just
but also at the same time
to suit whatever
everybody has
intuitions feel nice to you because they justify what you know, the diet that you want to eat or the lifestyle you want to live. Real morality depends upon the real facts of the world in terms of the consequences of our behavior.
At the same time, everybody has to start somewhere with something. When you're trying to make a difference or make a change. What's that? Can you hear me,
Carson?
Oh, okay. I don't think it's my end. Hello.
Can you hear me?
Testing. I can. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear you at all.
I'm not muted or anything.
And it doesn't seem to be.
Let me try and
My
mute and
doesn't seem to be
unmute.
down.
Huh.
Okay.
Testing.
Yeah, I'm checking everything.
Can
I'm gonna unplug and
okay.
replug
Can people in the
headset
can people in chat, can they hear me? For the record, check. Can hear both of you fine. Oh, okay, chat. Can you hear me now? Oh, you're muted now, Jeremy.
Oh yeah, whenever you unplug it and plug it back in, it mutes you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But yeah,
you can hear me now, though.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, it was funny. I didn't think you were like intentionally trying to be rude or anything, but every time I went to talk, it seemed like you were treating it as if I wasn't there. And I'm like, I'll step back. I'll just let him be. But every time, and it sounded really weird. But yeah, I was basically just trying to point out, like, everybody's different, and people start in different, like, everybody has to start different things somewhere. Like, somebody might say, like, oh, I'm not gonna, if I go to Starbucks, I'm gonna take my mug and have them fill it up instead of use a plastic cup, and I'm gonna do this, that, or the other. And sure, they can be told by anybody. Unless you know everything, you might make the wrong choice. But I think it would be good if we had an idea to let people know, especially if they're curious. I don't think many non-vegans are going to say, I'll cut out one animal. Which one should I cut out? But if we had a good idea, like if our country was going to make it illegal to eat one of the main animals, chickens, cows, pigs, lamb, which one we would want to be made illegal, that could just be a good thing to know and to have an interesting. So anyways, it's probably chicken. It could be pig, not the numbers, but the actions per pig maybe. But But you said something about egg, and I want to hear you explain that a little further. Now, I would imagine it's painful to lay an egg, especially how chickens have been raised to lay one a day. But I can't think of anything else that would make the egg industry so full of suffering. The chicks
Part of
going in
it-
the grinder, I don't
Yeah.
view that as suffering. I just view that as gross and distasteful.
Well, that's a big part of it. These extremely painful moments of the process of death for half of the individuals right off the bat. That's a pretty big factor in the egg industry, but also, yeah, the condition of layer hens is a big factor. Bred to lay this extremely unhealthy amount of eggs that causes severe nutrient deficiencies, and all the kinds of
Gotcha.
organ failure and weak bones and stuff that result from this.
Do you personally rank death anywhere near suffering?
This is kind of tricky because the loss of potential future happiness is very bad in many contexts, but that more applies to hunting of wild animals, applies to the killing of humans and things. But and in the abortion case too, I said the greatest loss of the aborted fetus is the loss of potential happiness. It seems to loom larger over the actual pain experienced. But the thing, of course, to realize is that not bringing them into existence in the first place also prevents that future happiness. So it doesn't seem to be a very good argument for the badness of death when the alternative was non-existence, which is the same absence of happiness as death, right? If those chicks had never been bred, if that human fetus had never been conceived, the same happiness would not have come into being. So this is an old issue within ethical consequentialism, is whether denying future happiness can only apply once an individual already exists, in which case killing all those male chicks would be especially large form of badness, because once they already exist, the moment that they are conceived, maybe, or the moment that they hatch, certainly, like now they're existing individuals who have these potential lives, which can be taken away from them, whereas never having been bred in the first place wouldn't count as a denial of happiness, because those individuals never existed to be denied happiness. But I do think that position is theoretically weak, and the arguments for the idea that never being brought into existence in the first place is essentially the same negative, the same lives being prevented, the same loss of well-being. So I don't. What I'm saying is, I don't know how to how to make a strong argument for death itself, premature death itself, being a worse kind of thing than never having been brought into existence.
Okay, did I don't know if I missed some double speak there. You are saying that it would be better to not be brought into existence than
No. I'm saying that I guess I'm agreeing with what you suggested, that
okay.
the suffering is much worse than the death, but it's not because of what you've articulated in our previous conversations, including our very first conversation. It's not because humans can anticipate and death that's the primary reason why death is bad. The primary reason why premature death is bad is all of the positive well-being, all of the happiness and good life that has been lost.
Potential. Yeah.
But when you make a decision that prevents some being from coming into existence in the first place, you're also causing all that potential happiness to be lost.
Gotcha. Okay, well, let's look at a thing. Let's imagine the egg industry only involved chickens that weren't bred to lay eggs faster. They weren't having like more calcium messing up their body. Let's imagine the only downside to the egg industry was the grinding up of chicks. So would we say that it's safe to say that if you had like a plate with 100 calories of chicken meat and a plate with 100 calorie of eggs, and this 100 calorie of eggs led to a certain amount of male chicks going in a grinder and dying within seconds, versus this chicken meat that's 100 calories that led to, in this case, it's one chicken, that lived, what is it, 3 months, 6 months, maybe 3 months, pumped full of hormones, legs break from under them, they're sitting in a tiny shed. Clearly, in this case, with the hypothetical I created, where they're not bred to lay an egg every day, it'd be safe to say that anybody that wanted to do a good act would eat eggs over chicken.
It depends upon the facts,
Okay.
maybe. But I mean, my ethical position is that it depends upon the facts. So what you're asking me to distinguish between the two is not because I have any sort of ethical doubt about the basis for judging that difference. It's about the facts, and you know.
So what could the well?
I can't
so this one's
just sit here in my chair and know what all of the facts of the
well, you could be with this because I gave you a hypothetical. So this one involves some facts.
Well, I mean, you gave the hypothetical about like, okay, if the only negative is the grinding of a male chicks, because I can sort of guess like what that would be like, how to measure that. So then that means that the experience of the layer hens is like exactly neutral, or it's all hypothetically happy, or what?
Just for this hypothetical, it's just completely neutral. The layer is just laying an egg and living a normal life that it can barely even tell that it's in captivity.
And then in this hypothetical, the broiler chickens are experiencing their real world levels of horrific, basically suffering throughout their entire lifespan, right?
Yeah, I would say the average factory farm chicken, yeah.
That horrific suffering of the broiler chickens is seems clearly like a worse consequence than
Gotcha.
just the
Okay.
the day old male chicks being very quickly killed by the grinder. Yeah, that's how it seems to me. This extended, horrific suffering, self-mutilation, attacking each other, just persistent life in ammonia, legs breaking under their own weight. Yeah, that suffering seems much worse than the numbers of.
Do those chickens not lay eggs? The ones that are in like the tiny cages for their meat? Let's see.
I think they're not bred to lay a huge amount of eggs, so there are females, but some females are used to produce new ones. But
Gotcha. I'm just trying to do the math. So I would guess. So it's 3 months of life. I think 3 months to get a chicken to get the size of killing to eat, because they pump it full of hormones to make them reach the size of a natural 6-month-old chicken in 3 months, and then they kill it, they butcher it, and then you eat it. I'm guessing one entire chicken is probably about like 1,000 calories.
Wait. To reach, I'm sorry, I just want to stop you. To reach the size of a natural 6-month-old, certainly not the wild ancestor or the way that.
Oh, maybe not the
size of
wild
chickens,
ancestor.
100 years ago, right?
From my understanding,
They
if they weren't
reach
pumped
a
with
size
hormones,
that's much larger to what. Okay, it's not just reaching the size in 3 months that a chicken 100 years ago would have reached in 6 months. It's reaching a much larger size than any chicken ever reached 100 years ago, I believe. Pretty sure of that.
Maybe it's just the idea that if you took a typical like factory farm chicken or even a free range chicken, and you like a chick, and then you didn't pump it full of hormones, and you just let it naturally grow, whatever it would look like in 6 months, I believe that's the size of a 3-month-old chicken on hormones from factory farms. Not that that means anything specifically, but that's my understanding. But so I'm trying to imagine. So if you have a chicken that has 3 months worth of torture to become, let's say, 1,000 calories, where let's say it takes a dozen eggs to make 1,000 calories. Let's say for even the chickens that have been bred and modified to lay an egg a day, that's 12 days to create the same amount of calories as a 3-month lifespan of torture. I would guess even if you take my hypothetical, but factor in the suffering from laying eggs, eating chicken has got to be cause a wild amount more suffering than eating eggs. I think. I mean, I'm just throwing numbers off the top of my head, but yeah.
You know, I think I can tentatively acknowledge that. It's just really important to forestall the anti-consequentialists to say both are obviously extremely bad choices, and it's important to bring in the anti-speciesism, you know, in the comparison. The comparison is suffering to suffering, negative consequences to negative consequences. It's not through a speciesist lens, which means that we can sit here and have this conversation about, whether somebody who regularly eats chicken meat is worse than somebody who regularly eats eggs for the calories. But we should also be able to say in the same breath that somebody who regularly eats eggs is almost certainly doing something morally worse than somebody who rapes another human once a year. And that's where, I've got to point that out to show the vegans who are inclined to be anti-consequentialism that consequentialism is not weak here. By saying one thing is better than another, we're not implying that the thing that's less bad is okay. Because in the context of all of the ways in which we could be causing suffering or preventing suffering, causing happiness or preventing happiness in the world, the things that are very commonly done to non-human animals rank much higher in the unnecessary causing of net harm than very, very many things that would label you a complete monster in our society if you did them to humans.
Yeah.
So that has to be that has to be underscored. That there are many, many kinds of things that you could think of that humans could do to other humans, the frequency with which they could do them and the for which they would do them that would essentially cause them to become societal pariahs because they would be considered so evil, which are lower in the amount of unnecessary suffering than all of these common behaviors of non-vegans toward non-human animals. whichever
Gotcha.
one of these aspects of exploiting non-human animals is it causes worse net suffering than others. Uh, most of them cause greater net suffering than, I'm not going to fill up this stream by listing things that are serious crimes and certainly considered serious moral violations when done by humans to other humans. But there are many of them which I'm convinced cause less net suffering, less unnecessary suffering than whatever you would rank fairly low on the priority list in terms of factory farm animal products in terms of suffering. And that's why you should be vegans. And until it, if it's going to get down to like insects, especially like small amounts of insect derived, food coloring in your candy, then that's where it's pretty minor and or barely sentient, if they're sentient at all, animals like oysters. That's where there's sort of this kind of uncertainty about the trade-off, right? Or that's where the trade-off might become positive. But spending too much time talking about whether eating pig flesh, eating chicken flesh, eating eggs, eating dairy, is which one is worse than the other? They are all worse than things that almost everyone would condemn somebody for doing on a human-to-human ethical.
Interesting.
standpoint.
Yeah. I'm gonna hold off on commenting on that detail, especially the point with the R word. I just want to think it over a little further before I comment on it. But yeah, no, I obviously I think it's we don't need to eat animals, and we should all stop eating all the animals. I think it's good to break down different things and to figure out which animals are suffering the most, the difference between the amount of suffering one cow might go through versus however many chickens it would take to make up the calories of a cow, and these different things. More important than that, I think, is going over each of the treatments. And if we were to cut back on factory farming and make laws about dehorning and size of cages and size of like fields where like Peter Singer talking to Alex O'Connor talking about however many chickens per hectare. I think these are very important details to go over.
I just wanted it to be clear that it's not that it's not, you don't have to take a philosophical position that like incremental progress is bad, or that any amount of exploitation is just as bad as a larger amount of exploitation, which is absurd, right? You don't have to take these weird anti-consequentialist positions that say exploitation is exploitation and one form can never be worse than another form in order to be a very strong vegan. Consequentialist vegans like Matthew Adelstein, very strong. The very strong position is not that degree of harm doesn't matter. The very strong position is that the experiences of animals in factory farms is much, much worse than almost anything that humans experience, almost any atrocity inflicted upon humans. And the totality of the suffering of factory farm animals is greater every few years than all of the suffering from all causes of all of our hominid ancestors who have ever existed. So it's still a very strong vegan position, not because we don't think in terms of trade-offs, but because of what the trade-offs are. and how the trade-offs compare to other trade-offs. And in the human context, people are getting outraged all the time, whichever side you take on human issues, you know. Is outrageous harm being inflicted upon trans women by their not being allowed in women's restrooms, or is outrageous harm being inflicted upon, you know, cis women or girls by the presence of trans women in their bathrooms? You know, I might have an opinion on that, but what I definitely have an opinion on is that the harms on one side plus the harms on the other side, add them together, they're not even a drop in the ocean compared to the harms inflicted on factory farm animals in a
Yeah.
year, say.
Gotcha, yeah.
So if you're going to be
definitely-
politically outraged on one side or the other of an issue like that, you're going to get worked up about it. You're going to cut off friendships because they disagree with your view on a human issue like that, which many people do. You're going to refuse to vote for a political candidate because they hold the wrong view on that issue. Then you should damn well be having stronger reactions to the much larger issues, which are all of the instances, all of the types of suffering inflicted in factory farming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe what's best then, I mean, I think this is obvious, but I'll say it anyways. What would be better than to tell somebody the best animal to cut out would be chicken or whatever? What might be best is to tell people that what's best is to cut out something that you yourself know is unhealthy. Because if somebody is convinced that they need meat to be healthy or whatever, they're going to think that what's healthy with meat would be something that doesn't have hormones, or it's called organic meat, or it's like they're not going to look at a deep fried chicken nugget and go, I can't give this up because I need it for my health. So if we know people aren't going to go vegan, instead of getting them to do something like Meatless Mondays or completely cut out chicken or vote to not have dehorning allowed, maybe our focus should be to get people to stop eating hot dogs, chicken nuggets, ice cream that's full of sugar and cow's milk and makes this calf have to be taken away from its mother. What do you think?
You know, we're getting into psychology. I've heard you make that kind of suggestion before. It's really interesting because you're the first person I've ever heard make it. You know, it's premised on this psychological theory that that people are gonna be more likely to do the right thing if you take one of their excuses away. Some people might work that way. I think some people might. Some people, after arguing that you know they need to consume meat for their health, would readily accept that they at least shouldn't consume any meat that's clearly not healthy on balance. But I mean, you could do studies, psychological studies, to maybe try to establish this, but my hunch, I guess, is that people don't tend to work that way. They would tend to, because you know, this is something I've said in response to certain consequentialists advocating for reducitarianism. It came up in comments in response to some video from the psychologist Diana Fleischman, who is self-described utilitarian and also basically strong reducitarian, who used to be vegan and now is like believes that factory farming is the worst thing in the world, but as a result, like almost never eats animal products, but sometimes does when she's traveling. And she also believes in offsetting, that she can make a large donation to animal charities whenever she's traveling and decides that it's too hard to not eat meat or something like that for a couple of weeks. But in some of the comments in response to that, I pointed out it seems really weird that she's the psychologist and she takes this philosophical position because, I think that what I'm about to say is heavily influenced by human psychology. And this is that I don't think humans are very good at reducing or adjusting the frequency with which we engage in certain behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
The famous example is how many calories we eat when we're trying to go on a weight loss diet, or how many hours per week we exercise, various things like this, right? We when we're trying to change frequency, we lie to ourselves, we strategically misremember, we create these categories of like cheat day kind of things where and then we don't remember the number of cheat days, and so it seems like it's going to be very hard to be a principled reducitarian, and kind of backsliding is going to be pretty common, just based upon what I know of common sense and my life experience about the psychology of doing something like that. But what humans are very good at is taboos. People who culturally don't eat dog meat and don't think of dog meat as something that you would eat are very, very good at always refusing dog meat and never thinking about trying to get some, right?
Yeah.
Like Muslims and Jews who regard pork as something that's forbidden are very good at never eating pig products.
Yeah. React to
so
being shamed very well.
It's easier for people to become non-drinkers than to cut down on their amount of drinking, right?
Yeah.
And and so I think that that's a very important response to the question of like, would it be better for two people to cut their consumption of animal products in half, or for one person to be completely vegan? At the first level, it seems like those would be the same. They'd have the same consequences for the animals. But when you factor in human psychology, it's pretty clear what's likely to happen with the people who started out cutting it in half. Is they're going to still think of it as cut in half when it's actually backslid back to being 80% or 90% or even exactly back where they were before.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of these types of conversations that we can have with people might just be more eye-opening than practicable. Somebody you could tell somebody like, okay, don't eat the stuff that's unhealthy if you're saying the only because people will tell me that it's immoral to take a cow into your basement and hang it upside down and poke it a bunch with a knife because you get these dopamine levels watching it bleed, and then you take it down, sew it up, and let it go back, and you do this once a week. You just love watching tortured cows. But the rest of your life, everything's great. You have a great family. You treat people well. You're a great citizen. But you love torturing cows. Everybody will tell me this should be illegal. You shouldn't do this thing. And so if somebody tells me that they don't care about the suffering of an animal if they think the food is needed for their health, okay, that is what it is. It's a hard thing to fight. But if they're going to go and buy a certain amount of dairy product stuff like ice cream or whatever that they would say they know that's unhealthy for them, cookies, cakes, they would say this is not good for my health. Getting them to recognize that's not much different than the guy torturing the cow to get high dopamine levels. You're eating ice cream to get high dopamine levels, but to get that, a calf is taken away from its mother, and cows are hooked up to machines. And so it might not get people to only eat healthy meats and dairies or whatever, but it should at least get people to recognize that they are
Right.
wrong. They should be able to say, I am morally wrong, but I will continue to do it because of addiction.
Couldn't you sort of reverse the direction of your argument? Because your argument there seems to be taking people at their word that they actually think that they need to consume animal products for their health. And then you're trying to lead them from that belief to giving up on unhealthy animal products. You're trying to lead them from P to Q, but couldn't you reverse it, do the contrapositive, and from not Q to not P, which is the fact that they haven't already given up the clearly unhealthy animal products indicates that they don't really sincerely believe the reason they give for eating animal products based upon health.
I think you're right.
It suggested that it was just a rationalization. It was just something to deflect the vegan in that moment, and they didn't really believe that in the first place, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think you are likely right in most cases. But there's two things I like. For one, I like to show people respect, but also I like conversation to have meaning. I like the idea that I can show this person, I'm listening to you. I want to take what you're saying in a realistic way and think about it. And I want you to take in what I'm saying and think about it. So even if they're lying to me and it's not worth believing it because of what you just described, I think I'm more likely to get somebody to truly think and go home with a good experience if I'm not just showing them the facts of why they're wrong. If I'm just saying, like, I'll let you tell me what you think is acceptable about eating animals, and then I'll work from your level, and then hopefully they can respect that and think about that and go, maybe I need to think about this more. At least that's what I think about it.
Like many things, you know, which argument you take, which approach you take is going to depend upon the individual person you're dealing with. You know, who they are, what you think their actual beliefs are, and which kind of approach is likely to lead to a better effect. You know, I was just thinking about this. In terms
well, also,
of the,
really quick, sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Okay,
But
yeah.
when you say the better effect thing, I just want to point out something real quick. I think that's right, but I don't want it to seem like I'm lying to create a better effect. I truly want an honest, open conversation. I want that person to feel like a week later they can talk to me about something else, philosophical, political, whatever they want. And to know, like, honestly, I'm in it for a good conversation, not that I'm trying to say what I can say to get the best effect. So it just happens to be both. But sorry, go on.
Yeah, the issue of when outright lying might be effective is a tricky one, you know, because you can morally accept that that lying is good when it produces a better effect than telling the truth, and still recognize that in the real world there are many ways in which lying ends up ultimately becoming less effective because you have to remember what lie you told, you know, because you find it hard. You don't seem as sincere when you're actually lying, you know. You're not as powerful of an influencer, and so oftentimes the direct truth probably is the best policy. Maybe you get burnout more. You get burnt out more if you're feeling like you have to you're obligated to lie all the time and that make people do the right thing. I think there's probably this constant bending of the truth is probably a big aspect of the burnout in certain kinds of professions, like social work and whatever, where you can't really tell the people you're trying to help what you actually think about their situation and its causes. These people seem to have pretty high rates of psychological problems, work-related stress. Having to lie as part of your job is probably a big part of that. So I wanted to say, in terms of the thinking about the consequences and the particular people you're dealing with, it's really relevant in terms of the Liberation Pledge. You're familiar with the Liberation Pledge?
No, I'm not.
Oh, it's the vegans who pledge to never eat at the same table with carnists eating animal products. They're never going to eat at the table where there's animal products present, either in a restaurant or at a home or whatever. Well, whether that's the right thing to do or not is going to depend upon who you are, who your friends and family and acquaintances are, what kind of community you live in, what kind of restaurants it has, and overall it's going to come down to what the effects of your various choices are likely to be on the animals. If you're somebody who lives in a big city with lots of amazing vegan restaurants, then you should probably tell people, any event that I'm going to go to, we've got all these vegan restaurants to choose from. I'm not going to go unless it's one of these vegan restaurants, and send the menus to people, and you got a pretty good chance of convincing people that to accommodate you by going to the vegan restaurant, where they're going to very likely be impressed by the food there, and you're really doing a good job for the spread of veganism, breaking down some barriers. On the other hand, if you're like if you're in a town that doesn't have any fully vegan restaurants, but it has like pretty good vegan options at several different places, then it might make a lot more sense to go out to the regular place that other carnists are going and order your vegan option, and just have them see how delicious it looks, and offer to let them try some, and it's a way of starting conversations that in that environment might be the best way to advocate for veganism. And then of course, if you're like in some place where like every restaurant is barbecue, and if you go there, you're going to be eating like a shitty looking iceberg salad and French fries, and everybody's going to be making fun of you, then you probably shouldn't be doing that, because you're feeding into this false stereotype of what veganism has to be. So you might as well stay home. So I don't think there's a one size fits all solution. Is with something like the Liberation Pledge. I think everybody should be thinking about the likely social effects of the choices they're making when it comes to that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And there's so many interesting routes you can go with that conversation. I think it's really fascinating to look at, to like maybe even compare it to if you were around during slave days. Would you like make a rule with yourself that you wouldn't be at a house if there was African American slaves waiting on you at the dinner table or whatever? You would have to analyze so many different levels of, do you have a better chance not offending these people and having multiple conversations with them year after year to make social change than you do to make a stance that would just make them shut out of your life? I shouldn't have started that idea though, because I do have to say right now, I got to hop off here and get going, but I would love to break that down with you and talk about that topic, but also which cases it is best or not best to go out to dinner with certain people and to send back food and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's we covered a lot. I just want to finish by re-emphasizing the fact that ethical consequentialism is not a weak ethical philosophy. Ranking things, such as ranking the different types of harm caused to non-human animals, is not saying that they're not both absolutely terrible. And the real way to understand this is the way that non-speciesist ranking of the harms to non-human animals match up against harms to humans, to show that consequentialism is actually quite strong. Yes, it's better if people eat exclusively cow flesh than exclusively chicken flesh. I'm pretty sure of that. But the eating of cow flesh is morally comparable to some things that normal people in our society would be horrified by being done to humans. And I just want to really underscore the fact, I'm not an ethical wimp, and Jerome is not an ethical wimp, and Matthew Halstein is not an ethical wimp, and Peter Singer is not an ethical wimp. Okay. Comparison is not endorsement or apology for the thing that is somewhat less bad. If we had more time, I'll just say very briefly, serious, horrific offenses against humans can be morally compared as well. Some horrible things are less horrible than other horrible things.
Yeah.
And
well, not only that, most people don't have a good understanding of the word comparison anyways.
It's not an endorsement. It's not an endorsement of Ted Bundy to say that Ted Bundy caused immensely less harm than Adolf Hitler did. Okay,
right.
That's just true. It doesn't mean I like Ted Bundy.
Yeah. No, so many different routes to go. I keep thinking every time something's said, I think of something I want to say, but I do got to hop off here. As you probably know, it's late for me. It's the same time for me as it is for you. But family wise, it's late for me, so I better hop off here. But Jeremy, it's good talking. I hope you're doing well, and I will. I'll see you around.
Thanks, Carson. Talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.